Hey, what's up you guys? B Randon here. It's Friday, I'm not at work. Hopefully you're not at work. Hopefully you guys are having an awesome day. Today we're gonna do something a little different. You know, I go fishing down at the North Jetty down in Samoa a lot, down off the rocks, and you know, it can be a little tough. There's a lot of snags, and it can be a little frustrating down there. So I thought I'd just try to share a few tips, a few things that work for me. Maybe put you guys on a few more fish, and more importantly, try to have a more fun time down fishing off the rocks, you know? So let's get into it. Let's take a look at some of the gear I'm gonna use down there. All right, so let's take a look at the rods we're gonna use down there. So this one here, this is what I use for throwing my plastics and lures and stuff down there. It's a 9-foot Fenwick rod. It's like a medium heavy action rod, something like that. But it works pretty good. I've got it loaded up with some 15-pound test cheap line. That works pretty good. If you've got like a, you know, if you've just got freshwater gear, like a 6-foot rod or whatever. I used to fish down there with a 6-foot rod and 8-pound test, and it worked out pretty good. This just helps me get a little bit more leverage on stuff. The heavier line helps me get out of a few more snags. And the longer rod helps me cast better and gives me a different angle when I'm working my baits in, you know. And then for like soaking bait down there, I usually use something like this. It could be a little longer, but it's stiff, it's heavy, and it's good at handling you know, heavier weights and stuff for keeping your bait sitting down there. But like I said, that's just for when I'm soaking bait. I'll use something like this. I don't really use this when I'm, you know, throwing plastics or anything like that. But yeah, it's a good rod for soaking bait and using heavier weight on and stuff. All right, you guys, so let's talk fishing line a little bit. First of all, I'm a pretty broke fisherman. I try to buy cheap gear. Here's a couple cheap brands of fishing line I've found. First of all, this Golden Gate stuff, as far as for fishing down off the rocks, it's not that great. It's not very abrasion resistant, and you're gonna be replacing like feet of line every few casts. So if you see this stuff in the store, for fishing off the rocks, I wouldn't get it. It's only a couple bucks, but I've had success with it in other applications, but it rubs on those rocks and it gets chewed up really quick. This Zebco Omniflex line though, it's a couple bucks. It's 700 yards, and it's good line. It's strong. It's pretty abrasion resistant. Personally, I prefer mono. I've had bad luck with braid in the past, and oftentimes I bite my line to cut it, so this works better for me. If you guys like braid, go for the braid, you know what I mean? But yeah, I've got 10 and 12-pound test line here. The rod I showed you earlier has 15 on it. Next time I spool up, I'm planning on putting 12 on there. I kind of like light line. It's easier to cast with, and the current doesn't affect it as much as it does heavy line. But you know, like I said, line choice is kind of a preference thing, but I do recommend this Zebco Omniflex line if you're looking for cheap line that's pretty good. All right, let's talk about weights for a minute. So these guys here, these little like teardrop shaped weights, this is something I'll use when I'm like throwing my plastics and stuff, and I basically rig that up as a drop shot rig. I'll show you my rigs and stuff here in a minute. This is a 3/4 ounce weight. This is a pretty good weight to use down there. Depending on what the current's doing, you can go a little lighter than that, or you can go a little heavier. As far as casting and retrieving my baits goes though, I try not to go above 1 ounce on these, just because of the snags. You will get snagged a lot. And we're talking weights here, we're talking lead. This is where a lot of your money is gonna go when you're fishing down on the rocks. And when you first get started down there, it's gonna be really frustrating. You're gonna lose a lot of gear and you're gonna get discouraged. But the more time you spend fishing down there, you're gonna feel those spots out. You're gonna learn where some of the worst snags are, and you're gonna learn how to avoid them, and you'll start losing less gear. You will still lose gear, but you'll lose quite a bit less than you were before. So this is what I like to use for my drop shots and stuff, for doing my plastics and my worms and stuff like that. So those are good. This is a 3-ounce cannonball sinker. I'll use this for soaking my bait. I'll use something like that or something like this, a little heavier than this. This is a 1 ounce. I'll usually go a little heavier than that if I'm soaking bait, unless the current's like barely moving. It'll keep your bait where it's at instead of running with the current, hopefully, you know what I mean? And I don't like to go much bigger than 3 ounces, because when I'm soaking bait, I usually just cast it out and let it sit and then when I bring it in really fast. And if you're using too heavy a weight, it's just gonna bang up against the rocks on the way in and you will lose it. Almost guaranteed. Unless you're really good, like I might not be that good, you know what I mean? Yeah, I try not to go higher than 3 ounces out there just cause I don't wanna lose all my gear, you know what I mean? So little guys for working your baits in, and bigger guys for soaking like a chunk of squid or something out there. So something else I wanted to show you, something I've been using recently, and I don't really see other people using it. This is a lead coil, it's hollow. You can get these at CVS or at Walmart, where you get your bait and tackle. This comes in really handy because A, you've got a pretty low profile weight. Once you've put it on, it's long and skinny. You can choose how heavy you want it, just pull off what you want and put it on your line. I'll show you here in a minute how I rig this up and how it's beneficial for me. But yeah, I don't really see too many people using these out there. It ends up being a bit cheaper than buying these pre-made weights like this. And also another thing with buying weights, I recommend going on Amazon or something and buy them in bulk. You'll save quite a bit of money. But yeah, these lead coils, they've come in really handy. And like I said, I'll show you how I rig them up and how they work. So, but this has become my go-to for fishing down on the rocks. So, all right, let's talk about lures and baits a little bit. So I'm sure this looks familiar to some of you guys. This is just a little swim bait. Got more of them. Throw little lead heads like this on there. There's also, we've got little weedless lead heads like that. I bought it was a 3-pack of these. They were really expensive. I've got one left because they still get snagged and you still lose them. And you know, little baits like these, stuff like that works pretty good. I see a lot of people throwing swim baits down there. Personally, I haven't had too much luck on swim baits. You know, they sell a lot of jigs like these in the stores. Personally, I haven't had too much luck on stuff like that. But what I really like to use down there, things like this. This is a little Zoom baby brush hog thing. My favorite thing down there is gulp sandworms. They are probably the best bait I've used in the bay probably ever. They've caught me pretty much everything. They've caught me halibut, they've caught me perch, they've caught me rockfish, lingcod. These are really good baits, so give those a shot down there. When I'm fishing my plastics down there, for something like this brush hog or something, I'll usually use like a size 2 bait holder hook. You know, just thread it on the hook like you would, and I'll just rig it up like that and rig it up in a drop shot and bounce it back from the shore, you know, and that works pretty good. I'll rig the gulp worms up the same way, except for I'll usually use a size 4 hook for those. These gulp worms are kind of pricey. You get 10 6-inch ones for it's like $7 or something. But when I buy the 6-inch ones, I usually just snap them in half. Then you've got 2 3-inch baits, or not quite in half, and that'll catch you fish, man. Like, you don't have to have a giant worm on there to catch fish. I know a lot of people like throwing these swim baits and stuff because they'll target bigger fish, but at that point you're just eliminating fish you could be catching. And you know, I don't have a problem catching some smaller fish, you know, from time to time. It's better than catching nothing, right? Also, you can use circle hooks when you're using like the gulp worms and stuff. Sometimes it's a little easier that way, sometimes it's not. I struggle with circle hooks still because I have to fight that urge to set the hook, you know what I mean? So, and then another thing I like to use down there, if I'm gonna be like I said before, like soaking bait, I usually use some squid. This is squid that I salted just to preserve it a little longer. I was using frozen squid all the time, and then I would take it out and then put it back in the freezer. And I was just buying a lot of bait, and I really don't use that much bait down there. I mostly use plastics, so yeah, if I'm not getting bites on plastics and stuff down there, one of my other baits to go to is just regular old night crawlers, man. I just rig them up in a drop shot, just like I do the gulp worms, and cast it out, work it back. And I usually use half a night crawler too. And You can get big fish on little baits, and you can also get little fish on little baits. You can get bait on little baits, but it's good to try. They melt a little bit in the salt water, but they will catch fish, so give it a shot. And another option you have down there for avoiding snags is to rig up a little weedless rig like this with an offset worm hook, you know. And this will help you stay out of snags. You will still get snags sometimes, but in my experience, I miss a lot of bites when I rig stuff up like this. So I usually don't. I usually do my drop shot rig with my worms and stuff. There are times where the drop shot rig in shallower areas, I've found the drop shot rig gets snagged a lot more than if you're throwing something like a swim bait and just retrieving it back. But at the same time, I don't really catch much on swim baits. So, you know, that's up to you. If you do really good on swim baits, like, that's awesome. But I've got a lot of swim baits, and I cast them out and I don't catch anything, and then I lose them, you know, so I don't really use them that much. All right, I'm gonna show you guys how I rig up my line down there. Like I said, it's just a drop shot rig. I like to have about 2 to 3 feet between my weight and my hook, just to keep my hook a little ways away from the rocks. When I do my drop shot rig, I just tie a little Palomar knot, you know, or as I like to call it, mom's knot. My mom had a knot she used, and my dad had a knot he used. When I was a kid, mom's knot was hard for me to understand, and dad's knot was easy. And as I grew up, it changed. Your Palomar knot there. You got your extra line here. Now at this point, I could just tie on one of these, but this is where this is gonna come in. Now if you look at this, look at the way this is shaped. It's got that teardrop shape. It's thinner at the top, fatter at the bottom. Now if you get that wedged in a rock, it's just gonna get stuck there, and that's where most of the times when you get snagged on the rocks, it's gonna be your weight getting you snagged. So if that gets wedged in the right spot, that ain't coming out, you know what I mean? But with this coil here, that's all pretty much one diameter, and if you get that stuck in between some rocks, you're a little more likely to get that to come out. So let me show you how we rig this up. I'm gonna take my pliers, and remember I showed you earlier, it's hollow inside. You're just gonna kind of cut into it. Don't pinch too hard, or you'll pinch the hollow part and you won't be able to get your line through that. But just give it a little cut on the outside, pop it off. You got a little hole that goes all the way through there. You can straighten that out a little bit if you want. But what I like about these is you thread your line through it just like you would like a slide sinker or something, you know what I mean? And then just give it a good pinch right there. And give it a good pinch right there. So now you've just got that crimped onto your line, right? And what that's gonna do is if you get stuck into a rock, you're a little bit more likely to pull your line out of that and just lose your weight than you are to lose your whole rig. You know what I mean? So yeah, these little coils, they come in really handy. I find it that I save quite a bit of money using these versus using these. So go out there and give those a try. They're pretty cool. For me, one of the biggest challenges of fishing in Humboldt Bay is the current. When the tide's changing, the current moves really fast, and fishing off the rocks, it's tough to keep in contact with your bait and know what it's doing. So before I go out there, I pull out my phone, I see what the tide's doing. Personally, I prefer to fish around low tide, around the slack tide. That way you get a little bit of time where the tide's moving, but it's not moving super fast. So you can fish a little easier that way. But I'll usually pull out my phone, check and see what the tide's doing. If there's a huge tide change, that means the current's gonna be moving really fast, and it's gonna be tough to fish down there. And you're gonna get in a lot more snags. Also a good thing to do, go check the surf report, see what the swells are like. If you go down that high tide with big swells, it's gonna be tough. it's going to be a little dangerous. You're going to get wet and you might not have a lot of fun. So check that stuff out. Like I said, personally, I prefer to fish around low tide, around the slack tide time, and then I get a little bit of outgoing tide and a little bit of the incoming tide, and you get to fish a little bit of everything. And then if you check the tide and there's like a 2 or 3 foot change in tide like throughout the day, you can go fish all day. The current's gonna be pretty mellow. It's gonna be easy to fish. And then, you know, as far as weather goes, I like sunny, warm weather. Everybody does. But if you can handle the cold, if you can handle the wind, the rain, go out there in the wind and the rain. Sometimes it's really worth it, you know. All right, so our next step is to get down to the rocks so I can show you what I do when I'm down there, show you how I work my baits in, stuff like that, and see if we can catch some fish. So let's do that.
Guys, we made it down to the water, and it is pretty awesome down here right now. So let's see if we can't catch some fish. So I got my little drop shot set up here. Got my weight about yay far down from my hook. Got a size 4 bait holder hook. And I think we'll start off with some night crawlers today. So let's take this bad boy, brutally split him in half. Alright, thread it on there. Thread it on there just like that. You're good to go. I got my little piece of my lead coil that I showed you earlier on there. Just pinched on like that. I know the bait usually slows down this time of year a little bit, so not sure what we're going to get out there, but hopefully we can get something. So this spot right here is actually pretty deep. As you get closer to that post there, it gets a little shallower, and a little ways this way it gets a little shallower too. But it's a pretty deep spot right here. So what I'm going to do, sling that baby out there. And because it is pretty deep, I'm going to let a little bit of line out. Not too much. But just let it sink there. And with the current being the way it is, it's not a crazy tide change today, so the current's not moving too bad. But you want to know when your bait hits the water, or hits the bottom. So just watch your line, and you should be able to tell. I don't know if you can see it on the camera right now, but see the line just stopped pulling out and went slack like that. So I'm sitting on the bottom right now. And then I just like to do this little bounce, a little bouncy bounce as I work it back. Just kind of feel around down there. I think right now I'm out past the rocks because it feels like I'm dragging through sand right now. I'm not feeling the little bumpy stuff. Oh, there's something a little bumpy right there. Is that my first snag? Look at that. So usually I edit a lot of my snags out here, but so see there, I'm up in a snag. Let's see if I can get out. Maybe not. First cast, first snag. Oop. I'm out of the snag. Might have pulled my weight off. Huh? Doesn't feel like it. Oh, my weight's still on there. And you see, that's how it is down here. There's snags all over the place. Like I said, the more you feel around down there, the more you get familiar with the spots you like to fish, the easier it is to avoid those snags, you know. And a lot of times when you get into a snag, it's good to do a little light. Look at that, pulling out of that snag, yanked my bait off of there. But yeah, a lot of times when you're up in the snags, before you just yank on your line, it's a good idea to give it a few little taps, you know, just light jerks on it to try and get it out, because if you got your hook in a snag and you just jerk on it real hard, you just bury it in deeper, wedge your weight in deeper, and it's just going to make it tougher to get out. And sometimes you just don't get out. Sometimes you just lose your shit, you know. But it's better to try to finesse it out of the snags at first instead of just yanking on it. And as the day goes on, and you get more and more snags, and you catch less fish, there's a bite. Ooh! Ooh! Got one! Second cast, you guys! What do we got? What do we got? Holy shit! And yeah, like that's kind of all you really got to do to catch fish down here, you guys. Well, second cast on that night crawler. Just bouncing it back in. Nice little black rockfish. Mwah! You got to give them some love before you throw them back, you know? But yeah. Drop shot in the night crawler, bouncing it back. And just nailing them. Nailing that one anyway. That gets my hopes up for a good day. You know what I mean? Heck yeah. Let's see, can we get another? You know, with weight and stuff down here, I really like to go with as little weight as I can for me to get where I need to be. So like, I just need enough weight to get to the bottom and be able to feel what my bait's doing. And the stronger the current's moving, the more weight you need to use to do that, and the more snags you get into. But 2 casts, 1 fish, like, good old night crawlers, man. Fisherman's friend. See that? Just, oh, that was a bite right there. There's another one. There we go. Holy cow, you guys. That's pretty nice. Holy shit. Another one. Like, dudes. It might be the same damn fish. I don't think it's the same fish, but... what's up with this? Little spots on him and stuff. I mean, like, dudes, can't complain, right? Can't complain about that. Pretty fish. Mwah! Go out there and get bigger, buddy. Alright, so I'm going to show you some of the other baits I use. I've got a salted squid head here. And what I'm going to do there, probably just break off one. But break off a couple of these tentacles. You know, I like my wormy little baits, and the fish seem to like them too. So I'm going to take one of these guys, thread it up on my hook, just like I did that worm. Boop-de-boop. Stuff a nice little, you know what, I'm going to just throw that. A nice little wormy squid tentacle. Let's see if they want that out there. Hitting pretty good on the worms so far. Whoop that guy out there. Let her sink. Yeah, I'm on 1 snag so far today. I mean, I'm only 3 casts deep, but you see, guys, like the current is barely moving. Like my line's pretty much sinking straight down, and that's what I like. When the current gets too rough, it's tough down here. But like I said, we got a pretty mild tide change today, so not a lot of water moving through here. Makes it a lot easier to fish. And apparently the fish are digging that today. God, it feels so good out here right now, you guys. I shouldn't even comment on it, because then, you know, the wind will pick up and it'll start raining and shit. You see that? Just little... I like to do little bounces just so I can stay in contact with my line. Sometimes you can do big. You can bounce it up like that, reel in the slack. Sometimes the fish will like that a little more. But I personally prefer the little one. I can feel all the little rocks and stuff that my baits or my weight's bouncing off of and stuff. So And you know, you'll, like I said, you'll learn where the rocks are, you'll learn where all the snags are. You see that? Oh, and right out. Just get a little bit of slack, and that was a case of my weight. My weight stuck somewhere. So when you get there, you do some little jerks like that. Sometimes, if you're lucky, a fish will come up and snatch you right out of the... See it? So don't do big jerks. If you need to snap your line off or really need to get out, you can do some big jerks if you're in a hurry. But little taps on that to keep you from burying your stuff deeper into the snag, you know what I mean? There's a couple other little things when you really get into a snag. There's a couple other tricks that work about half the time. But maybe not even half the time, but they work enough to where it's worth trying it when you're snagged. There we go. On the squid tentacle. Whoop! Little guy on the squid tentacle, but still a guy, you know? Whoop, whoop! Whoop! Don't drop the fish on the rocks, Brandon. Another little black. Go get fat, buddy. Go tell your grandpa, too. To see if we can get another one on the squid, and then I'll throw on a sandworm or something and see if they'll bite that today. You know, it seems like if they're biting, they'll almost bite anything. I came down here, I might add the little clip from the video. I came down here one day and I caught a fish on a little piece of jeans material. Check it out, you guys. A little brown rockfish on a little piece of cut up jeans. Oh, I think that's great. He's pooping. That I cut off of an old pair of jeans, and you know, it was just a little strip about like that, blue jeans, and I only caught one on it, and then I got snagged and lost it, but they ate it. I got a bunch of bites on it too, so you know, they'll hit. If they're biting, you throw something wormy in front of them, they'll pretty much eat it. And then if they're not biting, you'll catch rocks all day. And you might swear to never come down to the jetty again. But I have my best luck down here as far as fishing Humboldt Bay. I have better luck here than anywhere else in the bay. And you get a nice variety of fish. I mean, you get, you know, rockfish, but there's a big variety of rockfish here. Greenlings, lingcod, bunch of funny looking stuff. Cool sculpin and stuff. So it's a really interesting place to fish. Waves crashing. Ooh, I just had a nibble. Was that a nibble or a rock? It's a rock. It's a rock, you guys. I was looking at the waves. Let's see, am I going to be able to work out of this one? And you get snagged, move around on the rocks, try to hit it at different angles. See if you can get out of there. It feels like this one might be stuck pretty good. Oh, nope. Look at that. Right out of the snag. And waves. And back in the snag. Goddamn waves. Quit looking at them, Brandon. Pay attention to what you're doing. Is important. So here's one of those little tricks I was telling you about. Like I said, it works part of the time. Get some good tension on your line. Pull back. And release that tension real quick. And it'll supposedly sends like a shock wave down the line or whatever. But sometimes that'll kick you out of the snag. And it didn't work this time. We can do the full chair way. Look at that, you guys. I think I lost my weight, but got my shit back. You see that? It's exactly, me pinching that coil on there did exactly what I wanted it to do. That weight got stuck, and the coil, the piece of lead slid off the end of the line. I still got my stuff. Check, make sure you're not all frayed. Make sure you're good to go. And good to go. Throw another chunk of lead on the bottom of that, and it's all good. You don't need to retie everything all the time. So let's see if they want one of those gulf worms out there. I bet they maybe do. Maybe they want one. Dude. Look at the sky, you guys. I think the sky looks really cool right now. Hey, thanks for checking this out, you guys. I really appreciate it. I hope you know that no more sinking, sitting on the bottom. And this is a lot easier to notice when the water's not moving like crazy. When the current gets going, it's really tough to know what the hell your bait's doing. Your bait will sink over here while the current drags your line over there. But yeah, check your tides and your swells and stuff when you come down. And for easier fishing, pick times where the current's not going to be moving as fast, you know. And the fish do like some current moving. A lot of times the bite will die down at a slack tide, but I've caught plenty of fish at slack tide. And really in Humboldt Bay, slack tide lasts all of 10 minutes anyway. Oh, we got another one. Woo-woo-woo. What is this? What do we got? This feels like he's strong. Feels like a strong one. What is it? Oh, that's a nice black, man. Oh, what? What? You guys. You know, I was really worried that I wasn't going to catch anything while I was trying to show you guys what to do down here, but that's a nice black rockfish, man. I should have brought my scale down, get some numbers on stuff like this, but look at that. Fuck yeah. It's a good day. I haven't been down here in a couple weeks, too, so look. I'm stoked on that, you guys. Mwah. Get back in the water. Go get bigger, buddy. That was cool. Dude, you guys, can we get another one on this worm? Another one on the worm? I think maybe. Guys, I'm having a good day. I'm stoked. I'm stoked right now. I'm having a good day. Last few times I came down here, man, it was tough. It was cold. It was windy. Lots of current. Man, I'm having a good day today. Happy Friday, y'all. Friday for me right now anyway. So, it's Friday. I'm not at work. I hope you're not at work. I hope you're having a great day. Snagger. Little snagger. Oh, and a fish. And a fish. Popped out of the snag and got a fish. Dude. Dude, we're getting some decent ones today, you guys. I mean, dang. Right in the tip of the snout. Thank you, bud. Well, pretty fish, man. Like I said, getting some decent ones down here today. Look, that's 3 different baits I've tried. Catching fish on all of them. And like really, it's that wormy shape, man. Like these gulp worms, they do have a good scent to them, man, but they like that wormy stuff. But I mean, you can't argue with the results, guys. And I usually use these sandworms, but like you guys saw with the worms and the squid, same thing, man. To be honest with you guys, I didn't expect fishing to be as good as it is right now. Now, like I said, this drop shot works in deep areas with a steep, steep drop off. And the way I imagine it in my head, it's kind of like bouncing it up some stairs, going over these rocks. But you get into some shallower stuff, like right over here, and you're straight dragging it across those rocks, and you're going to get in a lot more snags. And like I said, something like that seems to be a little better with like a swim bait or rigging something weedless, but I don't have a whole lot of luck with weedless rigs or swim baits down here. I stick to what seems to work the best for me. So yeah, I was just in a snag, a couple little light taps, popped it right out. Now if I was using a different weight, that might not be the case on those snags, But like this nice low profile weight on there. Gets in and out of little spots, you know? People crazy out there in kayaks. No fishing poles. Crazy. Ooh, wait. Had a nibble, you guys. Could you ask for a nicer day out here right now, though? Like, really? Snagged up again. And I'm out. Magic. Little snag magic, you guys. And getting out of the snags, it does take some practices and getting used to. Like I said, you're gonna come down here, you're gonna lose a lot of gear down here. Let's do one more on the worm, and then see if I can catch something on something else. A little different method. I might set up a bait setup and just throw a chunk of squid out there and see if something wants to eat that, you know. This is more fun though. Casting and retrieving is more fun than just sitting and waiting. But you know what? I understand the lazy fishing methods. I understand. I'm a little lazy myself sometimes. I don't mind baiting and waiting. And you know, there'll be spots where you'll find snags, and when you start feeling those, you can start retrieving a little faster, just to decrease the likelihood of getting into those. But you get down here, you'll feel it out, man. It takes a while, but it starts to get fairly intuitive, you know. Oh, there we go. Here we go, little guy. Ooh, there's some bait out there in the water. Looks like what we got? Little kelp greenling? It's a little kelp greenling. You guys have watched my videos, you know I like catching kelp greenlings. They're cute fish, man. Look how pretty that is. Yes. Alright, so we got wormy baits out of the way. We got a nice little swim bait here. You know, like I said, I don't usually do too good on these, but we know there's fish out there right now, and we know they're biting. So let's see if they want that. See, not a one snag. I also didn't feel a one rock. I also didn't catch a one fish. But you know, people do good on these swim baits, man. I might not be a good fisherman or something, but people do pretty good on them, man. And I caught one down here on a swim bait once. I caught a good sized cabezon, probably my biggest cabezon ever, actually. Still not a keeper. And you know, with your swim baits, you can adjust your retrieve. Go fast, go slow, real fast, and stop. You just change it up and stuff. Yeah, I don't know why I'm trying to give you guys tips on fishing with swim baits. I don't catch shit on swim baits. Look, I found a snag though. Found a snag out there. Damn it. Oh, did we get out or did we break? I broke off. And yeah, swim bait fishing off the rocks for Brandon. That's how it goes. So you hook up some bait. I'll show you how I rig up my bait, soak bait. Alright you guys, so here's how I'm going to set up my bait rig. Got my weight down here. Got a nice fat dropper loop up there with a 1/0 circle hook on there. I'm still pretty new at using circle hooks. I still like to set the hook, you know. So we'll see if I can catch something on that. But that's about the rig I like to use. I'm going to use a 1 ounce weight. Just because the current's not going too crazy, it should be alright. Just like before, just laying it out there. Let her sink. Alright, we're on bottom out there. Now at this point you can either hold your line or set it down depending on how lazy you like to be. But for me, I try not to move it too much once it's on bottom out there. See, like, I'm pretty sure I'm snagged already. Maybe not. Could just be on the sand. And a lot of times when you cast way out there, your bait will end up out past the rocks. So sometimes I'll move it in just till I start feeling rocks, you know. And just wait, keep an eye on your line. Sometimes I'll set my drag loose if I'm going to throw other baits or something. Just kind of see what happens. I will warn you, doing this a lot of times, the fish will come out and grab your bait and just take you right into a rock. So I don't really sit a lot of bait out here too often, but sometimes it's productive. Oh, there we go. Baiting and waiting. It was about 10 minutes or so. My little circle hook. Got him in the corner of the mouth like it's supposed to. Little baby brownie, chunk of squid. Just chilling, lazy style. Tell you though, it was a little more boring than catching them on my worms, you know. But I mean, it works. Just threw that bad boy out there. Let it sit there. Little brown rockfish. He did pull me into a rock for a second. I had to get him out of there, but. Heck yeah, man. Nothing on that swim bait though. I lost that in a few casts. I think I'm probably gonna go back to drop shotting my worms, man. There you go. Little guy. Not too bad. Got that one drop shot and a couple little squid tentacles there. Got that one down the rocks a little ways, but yeah, not too bad. Go get bigger, little buddy. And you guys, we got some tide coming in. We got some waves, not crazy waves or anything. Getting close to getting stranded over here, man. I'm gonna keep fishing for a little bit though. Woo, woo, woo. There's another one, another little guy. Got that one on the sandworm. Little, what do they call it? The natural color one or whatever. Little drop shot. So yeah. Mwah. Go get bigger, buddy. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I do down here, you guys. I showed you a few different baits that I drop shot, some worms, some squid. I showed you my rig that I use for soaking bait out there. Don't really do that as much as I do the drop shot, because the drop shot seems to be way more productive for me. Showed you how I fail at using swim baits down here. But yeah, that's about it, man. You guys, if you get time, take some time, spend some time down here, you know, get comfortable with it. Like I said, those lead coils, man, they save you some money and they seem to work a lot better in the snags. So it's been pretty productive today. It's slowed down quite a bit since earlier. I think I got some weather coming this way. I don't want that. So I think I'm going to take off. Like I said, it looks like rain over there. I think I'm probably going to take off from here. See if I can't get another fish though. It's really hard to stop when you've been catching stuff. If you've just been getting snagged all day, sometimes you're really ready to stop. But for me, if I've just caught fish, it's really hard for me to just pack it in. But with the way the weather's going right now, with the wind and stuff, I have a feeling I'm not gonna want to be down here. You guys, with winter upon us and some less favorable conditions on the horizon, you know, I might not be out here as much as normal, but I've been thinking about doing a video series of just highlighting some of the fish I catch down here, a little bit of information about them, their life history, you know, just a little profile on some of the different fish I catch down here. If you guys think you'd be interested in watching those, drop me a comment or drop a thumbs up or something on the video, just to let me know you guys might be interested in that, because it's something I'm interested in doing. And I'm also interested in spending some time researching some of the different fish I catch too. So yeah, if that sounds good to you guys, let me know. But I think I'm gonna take off from down here. Woo, there we go. Holy shit. Ooh, yeah. Oh, he's in a rock. Get out of the rock, bitch. Get out of the rock, bitch. Ooh, that's how it goes. Oh, I think I'm going home, you guys. And then they bite my damn line. Bastards. Complaining about catching fish, you guys. Because I do not want to be in this cold, windy shit. Oh, cutie pie, though. You cutie pie. Ah, back in the water. Hey, the fucking wind caught that guy, man. Yeah, I'm taking off, you guys. Really glad I got to come out here, though. It was a good day.
Hey, thanks for checking out the video, you guys. Hopefully I've been able to share some information with you that'll help you catch some fish out there, help you have a better time fishing off the rocks. If you've got some tactics or some methods that work good for you, feel free to share them down in the comments. If this video helped you out, give me a thumbs up. That'll really help me out. Again, I appreciate you guys for watching. Get out there, catch some fish. Good luck and best fishes, you guys.